here. All right, recording, and now we're gonna go live per usual. We'll see if it works. All right, what's up? Let's see. Does Facebook want to work? Does Facebook hate me? We'll find out here momentarily. Okay, now we are. There we go. We're going live. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, Junior. Thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. And I'm actually going to end this really quick because I don't like what's happening here. I need to redo this. Oh my God. Hold on. Thanks for bearing
I'm always like so impressed with you for like, because I'm like, this is so much effort.
There's so many things, and technology, again, is like not my best friend. So hopefully that got some people's attention and they're like, what is happening here? All right. Let's try this again. Like this whole streaming and stuff thing is just so foreign to
I was
me.
so glad you texted because I was almost about to text you of like, Crystal, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Well, it was like, it wasn't worth it for me to like give you all this stuff early because it's like, then she's just gonna have to go and look for it. So let's try to make her life easier.
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
Okay, now we're gonna try this again. There, because I don't want to see just myself. I need to see both of us.
Yeah.
Hello, Facebook party people. Happy Friday, Junior. If you got that first sneak peek live, wow, good job. Thanks for staying with us. So welcome back, everybody. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys are all having an amazing week and ready to just roll into the weekend, have some fun, live your best life. If you are watching this live, will you please drop a like, drop an emoji, drop a comment, drop something so I feel like I am not just talking to my computer and my friend Katie here. Just let us know, okay? And if you have any comments or questions throughout, please do not hesitate to drop those, of course, because we love seeing what's going on with you guys and what kinds of things you want to talk about. But tonight we are talking to Katie. So Katie is amazing. She has been with me for 3 months at this point, which is effing awesome. That means we are only halfway through our journey, which means she's come so far, but we have so many more cool things that we can do over the next 3 months together. She's been just an amazing addition to our team. I don't know. I mean, I know how she found me, but I don't know how I got blessed enough for her to find me. Definitely, we did not know each other prior to this. And so it's really cool to see that, like, the message that we're trying to spread here is reaching multiple people, even if I don't know them in real life. So for those of you that are thinking like, oh, online coaching, like what? No, I need to be with somebody in real life. You don't. This is so much more than just like going and working out with a trainer in a gym. So anyways, I don't want to get on that whole tangent right here. I want to talk to Katie. Katie, tell the people who you are, where you're from. Just give us a little background so we know like what's going on with Katie and what do we need to know about her? Tell us.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, everything you just said as far as not needing to know someone online, like this was very much kismet for the both of us, where I also didn't know you. I also felt like it was just insane to just hire a random stranger on the internet, pretty much, more or less, to help me. And yeah, it was totally worth it. So I'm in Minnesota, you're in Colorado, like we're not even really anywhere near each other, but it's still been, I feel like just even being part of this at all has still felt like, oh, I'm here. We get to have that connection without like having the inconvenience, because I'm also a giant flake. And if I had to actually make an appointment to see you every week, I can promise it wouldn't have happened.
Nope, exactly. We have appointments for like one thing every week, and it is for a check-in, and that is it. And so it makes life a lot more livable when you're like, I don't actually have to go to a place. I just have to like get on my computer, which I know you and I are both very familiar with working from home anyways. So
Yeah.
very cool. So Katie, let's talk to people about like kind of how all this came to be. So where were you like in terms of your physical goals or health goals, or like what made you decide to like join on with me? Like what was going on with you that you were like, I need to hire a coach?
Yeah, so I feel like I'll be totally honest of like I grew up really not focusing on health at all, and it was kind of like I was felt a little bit like the outlier in my family. I did have a fit, active family. I just was a giant nerd and was not fit and active. And so I was overweight most of my childhood, and then eventually got to a stage where I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. I want to make some changes. And so I put in work and lost quite a bit of weight on my own when I was in my mid 20s or so. And then suddenly got to this point after during the pandemic where like I had maintained that for a long time. And I felt like all of a sudden nothing was working to make me be at a stage where, and I mean, I think we all had that moment during this pandemic of, oh, being physically healthy is a really big deal for a lot of different reasons. And I wanted to be healthy all of my life. And I was getting to that stage of like, well, you're going to have to put some effort because whatever you're doing right now isn't working. And I felt super lost because I had thought that I had learned all these healthy habits, but a lot of that had to do with working out and moving my body. And I'd realized I'd never focused on nutrition and that side of things. And when all of like my tricks that I had used before weren't working, I was totally lost. And luckily I had a sister who had taken one of your fitness kind of programs and
She was an Orange
recommended
Theory
you.
person, you guys. Okay. He's an Orange Theory person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking to her like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why that seems like nothing's really working the same way. And I don't really know where to start to kind of fix things for myself. And she was just being a good sister and was like, hey, well, I've been working with this awesome person, Crystal. Like maybe this is something that would be the right fit for you. And I was kind of lucky where it was just, I was at that point mentally where I'm like, yep, immediately, like, I don't need to know anything more. Crystal, great. She's going to be my person. And we had just a quick, catch up meeting. And I think like 2 minutes into talking to you, I'm like, yes, this is, I can vibe. Like, this is a person that I feel like understands me, understands what we're like, you were, I think like my favorite part was that you were very honest with me right off the bat of like, yeah, that's legitimate worries to have, but you also didn't make me feel alone or isolated or at all like ashamed of being in this place where I felt like I needed to reach out to someone. So I kind of just took the plunge and I'm so happy I did because this has been already great. And as you said, we're only like halfway through, if that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so cool because yeah, we we got on the phone for like half an hour and literally probably 2 minutes and it was like, oh, this girl is hanging out with me. Like I'm not even gonna let her try to not do this. It's just not gonna happen. So I think that's so important is that if you feel that immediate connection with somebody, like again, this doesn't mean any of you need to work with me in particular, but if you are working with a coach or somebody who's going to be at this big of a part of your life, you should probably vibe with them. You should be like, yeah, I would go out for drinks with her. Yeah, I would hang out with her at the lake on the weekend. Like that should be your person because you're like, they get me, they understand me, they relate to me. And I feel like most of the women that come into my program, they're women that I would hang out with, like, and I do hang out with them. And just thinking about how personal this gets, right? Like, I learn a lot of details about your life, you guys, because every single week I am asking the questions that are going to help me decide with you what the best plan of action is for you for the week. So I think that is something that's been great about you is I've never felt like you were withholding anything from me. I do work with people like that where I'm like, they're not telling me all the things I need to know and like, it can't help them. And so I try to make that abundantly clear. And you've just been so open and honest and transparent. And I think that that's really cool that you were able to like talk to your sister about like, hey, here's where I'm at, because I feel like a lot of people feel really uncomfortable getting in that vulnerable position where they don't even want to tell their friends and family that they're struggling. And so maybe their friends and family aren't the ones who can directly help them, but maybe they can lead you to somebody or something that can help you. And that's kind of what it seems like happened with you and your sister. Like you have a good enough relationship that you can tell her those things and not be embarrassed and just know like she's going to provide the support you need. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome for me. And then again, it was just, I think immediately after talking to you, I'm like, this is a person that I don't, because even though it's silly, there is so much shame when you feel like you're not like treating yourself well and you're not bringing yourself to kind of where you want to be, whether it's any way that looks. It was just kind of like I was so in my head about it, and it was a little bit of a stretch even talk. You're right, because it's not always even easy to talk to your friends or family about it, but luckily I'm just a person who does a lot of embarrassing things in my life, and I've found the best way to address it is to like tell as many people as possible, because it helps to kind of take that shame away. And
Yeah.
but it did really help that I was like, okay, this is a person that I can be like, yeah, here's like the ugly sides of what I'm going through, but there's no judgment there, but also a reality check of like, maybe some of that you caused yourself, and let's work to fix it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I love that. And that whole like, I'm just gonna tell people because whatever, it's kind of like exposure therapy. Like I just put it out there and they can do whatever they want with it. And I feel like that's a lot of what coaching is too. It's like exposure therapy. Like get on the scale every day. Like until that number becomes meaningless to you and until you don't get a high or get a low from it, like we're just going to do it. And, expose yourself to things that make you uncomfortable. Oh, you're not used to like getting up and starting your day with a walk. That feels uncomfortable. Let's fucking do it. So, yes, just keep repeating the things that in the end will make this all easier. Right. I talked about this recently, I think in like a piece of content I wrote or something where like, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. Like, is that an age thing or is that a me thing? But yeah, I think we're just older and wiser.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of everything I thought, like all of the things I was hesitating about, uh, and I thought was going to be so awkward or so hard to do. It's been honestly such a relief to just have, like, I was terrified about tracking my food again, because that's just something that I was worried I was going to get too obsessive about it or too restrictive, or it was just going to make me feel bad about, what I like myself and my choices.
Yeah.
And then when I actually started doing it, I'm like, oh, this is actually a total relief just to have that data source and something that you're like, oh, it's not a shame thing or anything that you have to worry about. It's just an honest look of like, okay, well, when you look at why, you're not feeling great today, it probably makes sense if you can kind of see some of the things you put into your body yesterday. And
Yeah.
it's, there's been a lot of things that felt like it was going to be a really big deal, but it's just not once you go there and put yourself in that position of like, no, this makes me feel really good.
I really love that. And like the whole it's data collecting, right? Like we cannot manage what we don't measure. And I think that's something that can be problematic for a lot of people is they're like, oh, well, in the past, I've really struggled with tracking or something. I get obsessive and I've been down that road before. And I feel like we kind of just ease into it and make it so much easier. And also we don't ever like shame any of our clients about like, oh my God, you went 1,000 calories over. Like, so what? Okay. Like, but you understand, right? Like it makes sense that you gained weight overnight, gained weight. And we also can relate it to it's like you didn't gain fat, you just have extra food in your body, right? So we can just point out those things, and that's what data helps us do, you guys. That is it. It's not a judgment thing. It's just, hey, let's just look at the facts, and that's all it is. It's just facts. So cool. Okay. So when you started, like, what was your big goal? Like, what did you want to achieve, knowing that we're going to be together for 6 months? You're like, okay, in 6 months' time, like, what do I ultimately want to come out of this? What did you think?
I mean, my big thing was I've done a lot of like, if I'd really just wanted to be like, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds or whatever the number is in your mind, I've done the crash diets and the things that, like, yes, I've lost that weight before, but I wanted to get to a point where I could actually maintain that. And something that, my other thing, I'm currently living in Minnesota. Winter blows here. It sucks all of the life out of your soul. And so then summer comes and you're like, oh, finally I can live again. Like I feel like a daisy, coming up and seeing the sun for like after so long. And I knew that this might be a slower path, but like also something where I wouldn't have to give up everything I'm doing. Like I travel a lot in my life. I do a lot of things, and that's just the reality of what it's going to look like. So crash diets just weren't working for me anymore, because I'm like, I can't really chisel out 90 days to be super restrictive on everything I eat, and I don't want to also because it sucks. And so my biggest goal was just like, I mean, I'd like to lose some weight, but I really just want to make sure I'm healthy for the next lifetime. My husband's a super active person. Like I'm a person who, when we travel, we want to be outdoors. We want to be doing things that really fill our cup, especially in like today's world where it's hard to separate from your work or your other, life aspects. And I just wanted to be in a place physically where I could make that happen as long as possible. And I knew all of the like, I just had that kind of real look at myself of like everything I thought I knew about losing weight, like doesn't feel like it's going to work for me at this moment. I really need to reset this mind frame. And my favorite thing about what you were promoting was that it wasn't just a like, hey, you know, I mean, it's daunting at first to be like, this is 6 months of my life that I'm committing to this.
Mhm.
Is that going to feel like I can't live for 6 months? But everything you were saying was like, no, the whole point is that you are going to live your life. We want to look at 6 months of your life and how we make fitness a proactive thing in that like doesn't feel like work. It's just a good habit that you do so that you're feeding yourself correctly.
Yeah,
And that was just, yeah,
I love
the
that.
biggest part.
Uh, that's so cool. Yeah, exactly. How do we integrate the better life that you envision yourself having with your current life and make those two just sort of marry one another so that it becomes like, oh, this is everything that I want to do. And these are the things I wasn't doing. And now they're together. And I get to actually make sure that this is something sustainable for long term rather than, hey, 90 days of not eating the things, not doing the things. It's 6 months to figure out the next 60 years, hopefully. So really cool. I love it. Okay. So give us an example. Like, again, we've been together 3 months. So what is that? Middle of May? Is that where that puts us?
Yeah.
What are the things that you've done? Because you and your husband do like to do a lot of things. Like, what are the things that you've done that you're like, holy shit, I'm still losing weight, even though I'm like going here and going there?
Yeah, I mean, we do have very like fortunate in this way. This is like travel is a huge thing to us. And just, you know, we have a lifestyle where we're rarely in town for more than 2 weekends a month. And so, between like either a work trip or just going like I had a wedding in Mexico City, I went to Vegas, I you know, did a lot of activities of just like a little weekend trip. We have a cabin we go up to, we're doing summer activities, we're socializing, we had a work party, you know, all of these things that I don't feel like there's been. I had family come in town and was hosting them, and they were visiting for a week. And every month there's always been something where like, you know, every once in a while you get a week where you're like, oh, I don't really have a plan, I can totally control everything around me, and it's wonderful in every possible way. But the best part was that I did all of those things and I was still somehow losing weight throughout that, which felt impossible because, you know, that was the part where it was so confusing before, because I thought I had been living like a healthy lifestyle, and then it just wasn't getting to a point where I was having healthy results from anything I was doing. And I don't really feel like I mean, if I'm being fully honest, I can see all of the work and changes I'm putting into this, but it just feels so easy that it didn't feel like I had to like give up any of that. We've still done all of the activities. It's just reprioritizing of like, well, I know, you know, getting my calorie goal might be hard, but I can get a lot of movement in this week because I'm in Vegas and it's 2 miles just to leave my hotel room. So that will help. And, you know, that's the first thing I'm going to prioritize. Or like my favorite part of working with you was just like the silly things of like, yeah, bring basically a bunch of snacks with you everywhere you go. And at first you're like, that's embarrassing, that's going to be weird. And then I did it. I'm like, this is amazing. I love food. I love eating everywhere. And I don't know why I wouldn't always have food with me.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like, yes, I pack a cooler to go on my airplane. And I think we talked about this recently where I'm like, yeah, you don't want to run into the situation where your plane is getting rerouted and you were thrown off of your landing that was expected to be like 6 hours earlier. Because this happened to me recently, you guys. I went to Vegas like right before Katie did. So one of the cool things she did is she reached out to me to let me know, hey, I'm going to Vegas. Like, can we get on a call together? And that's what we did. Like, I went over the strategies that I had used myself and like kind of asked her, like, are these things you could see yourself doing? Like, what can we do here? So we came up with a strategy for her. And I was basing that off of the fact that I had just gone and I've done this trip many, many times, just as Katie has. But when I went like a month before her, my plane again was rerouted. And so we got home like 6 hours late. But guess what? Your bitch had plenty of food in her backpack because that's how I travel. And guess who was really angry when we were at some random ass airport that had like no restaurants or anything? Everybody else, because they didn't pack food and I did. But anyways, I digress.
Well, and my favorite part about it is I am a bit of a travel snob because I travel frequently and I'm at the point of like, yeah, I do judge you if you're taking too long to get through security because like we know what we should do here. And this was something I didn't know about. And when you told me, it just blew my mind, where I had no idea that you could freeze full size liquids and then you're able to take them through your carry on bag. And now, like the first time I did it, my TSA agent was like, "Ah, you know what you're doing." And the pride I had from that, like I'm still talking about it to this day because I'm like, yeah, everybody recognize it's like you just get these life hacks that you're like, also I'm cool. I know how to travel now.
Exactly, exactly. No, I'm the same way because I used to work for the airlines, and so I knew all the tips and tricks and whatever because I travel a lot, right? So it is so funny because I still like I'm just on my like in my ivory tower every time that they're like, "Oh, nice work! Like you know how to like freeze your food and get through security, and can you tell everyone else?" I'm like, "Believe me, I'm trying to tell everybody." Anyways, yes, we love our travel. We love being prepared, and we do not like being hungry, you guys. So Katie and I are set up for success. If you need the pro tips, just let us know. We'll tell you. Okay. All right. So basically, we've been together 3 months. We still got plenty of time left together, but like, what would you say so far has been like the top thing that you've gained out of this experience? Just like if you had to say one thing that you're like, hey, this has been really fucking cool and I didn't expect it, like what would that be?
I think a lot of it is like I have made quite a few changes in how I treat food, how I treat nutrition, like even I mean the biggest change, which is also something I had lost before that I hadn't realized, was getting movement in every day. Where like I used to walk, I was fortunate enough that I walked to work every day. So I was walking a couple miles a day. And I never thought of that as a fitness thing at all. It was just, how I got to work. And working from home has been great in a lot of ways. And I love the flexibility it brings, but I hadn't realized how much I was just sitting in front of a computer all day long and how, I mean, both for like physically, obviously, I've seen the effect of just moving my body more, but my mental state of having like that. I mean, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm a sociopath in the mornings and I will gladly sleep. I mean, I'm not like sleeping until like 11 every day, but I love sleep. I will sleep in as late as I can. And so it has been hard work to get myself up out of bed and know like it's just going to be way easier if I get some steps in the morning so that whatever comes up in the day, I can still probably get at least that done. And it's not always easy, but like starting my day with just that kind of mental reset time, like I don't think I'd realized I was missing having, where I don't just roll out of bed and walk to my computer and then I'm dealing with work and things that piss me off, and don't necessarily, like all of the little petty things that just put you in a bad mood or feel overwhelming, even though it's not that big of a deal. So that's been huge to me, is just having like something that's serving me well physically, but also just realizing like, yeah, a lot of that helps to just set myself up for success mentally by taking some me time and prioritizing something for myself. And then the other biggest part, like I know I've touched on this before, but it has been crazy to me that I don't feel like I've had to not do anything. Like if anything, that's like the epitome of what like is the best part of this is I just let you know, like, here's the things I'm doing, like, how should I navigate this? And there's been plenty of times I've failed at it too. Like I've not to pretend like, oh, every day I meet my calories and this and everything else and all of it's perfect. And I've never failed the minute since I talked to you. Like I failed a lot, but I don't have the like shame about that anymore because it's still so easy the next day. Yeah. Well, and the next day it's just like, cool. Well, you know, I already have this support system waiting for me so that I know I can just immediately jump on back on track. And it's not like feeling like, oof, I'm starting over because we're not doing a crash diet. We're not being super restrictive. So like you didn't fail anything besides the fact that like, yeah, I don't feel as good today because I did some things that didn't serve me super well yesterday.
Yeah, I know. You're so great about just always coming back to your anchors of like, hey, yesterday wasn't perfect, but that allows me to know that I have room for improvement. But I can also look at here's all the things that I did do really well yesterday that Katie 6 months ago wouldn't have done. So I think that that's what's been really cool too, is you honestly, like every week in your check-ins, you are so good about like remembering you've come so far in such a short amount of time, right? And you're never
And
saying
that,
like, oh, I'm starting over.
well, and honestly, that's something I wasn't expecting. And I feel like is like, I don't always feel that way when I'm starting to check in. Like a lot of times I am like, yeah, I feel pretty crappy about my effort. And then I'm like going through your questions. I'm like, never mind, I am amazing. I didn't realize it, but like, because that's a lot of it where like, I mean, even the same as like the tracking the food or doing these things, like I guess I was so worried that it was going to feel really overwhelming or really restrictive. And no, if anything, like I'm usually way harder on myself. And then I like am reviewing my week so that I can check in with you. I'm like, no, I was really like, sure, I slipped up this 1 or 2 days, but like that didn't really make a difference. Or like, look at all the things I did do that I wasn't doing before.
Yeah.
And that's been huge because, you know, it's a really lonely place and hurtful. Like it's so easy to just hurt yourself when you're not feeling great about where you're at. And again, like I start most of my check-ins still in a like, I don't know, like not everything was great. And by the time I finish, I'm like, so I'm amazing. I don't know how I could be a more perfect human. And you know,
God,
and that's like
down, you guys.
and then the best part is then you have your response and I'm like the dweeb like listening and laughing along with you by myself of like where I'm like and Crystal supports me in everything I do. So all of it's great. And
Exactly. We are on a team. And something I forgot to mention earlier when you were talking is you're just like, oh, I fail, but like you don't, right? Like I've had failures in this program, you guys. I'll be 100% honest. I've had some bitches in here who have failed because they quit. They just stopped or they got the flat tire and they slashed the other three. And it's been miserable to work with those people. I am so glad they're not with me anymore because they would bring me down. And so what I love is working with women like Katie who, yeah, that check-in might start off where they're in one state of mind and they're kind of thinking of themselves as being a failure, like, oh, I didn't do this. I should have done this because I didn't do this. But by the time it ends, like I can see they actually were able to get through that thing and be like, oh, shit, I stacked up wins left and right this week. What was I even thinking like 20 minutes ago when I started this? So you have not failed anything. You just haven't been perfect, which is something I'm never going to expect out of anyone because guess what? Not perfect. Like consistency calendars here from the last 7 months to show you how imperfect I've been, you guys. But yeah, it's been amazing. So really, really excited for you. All right, cool. So anything else you want to chat about before I ask you one last thing?
I mean, I don't think so. Yeah.
You're killing it. Well, I know we had some comments on here. It's people talking about like your Minnesota winters and all the fun things. And they're like, yeah, Colorado's way better, which what do you think? Which is
So
worse?
honestly, because I grew up in Colorado, I moved here from Colorado. I sometimes okay. I'm sure if you asked me in January, I'd be like, yeah, this place is the fucking worst, and I'm never gonna live here again. But the one thing that they have like that's nice about their winters is it's consistent. So you just kind of know. And honestly, summer here is awesome. Your days are super long. You're doing a lot. And by the time winter comes, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to hibernate for a bit because I am exhausted and I talk to way too many people. Like I just want to be a hermit for a few months. The one thing that does get to me and that Colorado fully wins at is that there's not really much sun here in the winter unless it's negative 30 degrees. So that's the part I miss is just being outside and having like that vitamin D. But
Yes.
otherwise, the cold's not as bad as it seems like it's going to be.
Yeah, I'll take the sunshine in Colorado over my lack of sunshine in Montana where I grew up. So yeah. Let's see. I had Sarah here. I love what she had to say. She said, checking in with coach also allows you to check in with yourself, which I think is huge, right? Like it's that opportunity to reflect. Like if people look at a check-in as like, oh, I'm filling out this report to this other person who's going to judge me and stuff. Like that's not what it's about, right? It's to give constructive feedback and like figure out a plan to be successful. But it's really check-ins are an opportunity for our clients to look back and reflect and say, here's where I kind of messed up on some things. but here's where I did really awesome with things. And here's how I want to like take all of that and roll it into next week to make it even better. So, but yeah, I love that. Okay. Last thing I want to ask you about, if you knew somebody was considering maybe working with me and Liz and they weren't sure about it, what would you tell them?
I mean, my biggest thing is just that, like, one, that this is really hard to do on your own, and you might be that type of person that's able to crush it, which, like, all of the rewards to you. And I'll be the first to admit, like, I'm not great at, Crystal has this whole community that she cultivates that you get access to, and I'm the creeper that's watching everybody and like not interacting with a single human. But like that still gives me a lot of joy of just being able to see people's wins, or like if you're in your head and having a bad day about something, and knowing that like I might not reach out to people, I might not post something because I'm not always the best at that, but I totally could, and everybody there would support me and have my back on it. And the other part is just the accountability side, because there's, again, like all of the stuff, all of the trips I've taken, all of the times I have, potentially done things where it'd be super easy to make that into another week or 2 weeks. And that's where I got to where I wasn't feeling happy with myself. And the fact though that it's like, I mean, you can do that, and honestly, like, but you're gonna have to tell someone about it. You're gonna have to go into that check-in and be like, yeah, I slipped up this one day, and instead of just trying to like treat my body right, I continued at it and I did all of these things. And it's nice because it holds you like into a place where like that doesn't mean I'm not going to do it sometimes, and I'm not going to be like, yeah, I just decided to jump off the cliff this week and it was wonderful. And I've had, I think, that legitimate check-in before where I'm like, look, I slipped up multiple times, I have no regrets, I feel no shame, and I feel all of the good feels because I wanted that in my life. But it is really nice to also be like, is that what you want? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, you're not truly going to do anything to me or judge me or feel any one way. It's just that honesty with yourself of like, you started this for a reason.
Yeah.
And if you are on the fence about committing to that, it's like, who else are no one else is going to advocate for you as much as you can for yourself. And I'm definitely at the point of, I mean, I like hadn't told my husband at all about this when I signed up, because I was like, he's never going to have a problem with me choosing to do something for myself. And even then, once I had that conversation, it's like he might not understand it, but it's like anytime someone's hearing you doing like something that you're like, this, I think is just going to be something I love, something that brings me joy. If they have a problem with that, that's a them thing and not a you thing. So like any shame you have about it, like, not worth it. Totally worth it to just treat yourself.
I love that. I love that. We're pretty lucky gals because I think we have some supportive husbands that understand the happy wife, happy life mentality. It is a thing, you guys. And we talked about before, like you can't pour from an empty cup. So Katie's doing everything she needs to make her cup as full as possible so that she can be a better wife and a better career woman and a better family member. So I think it's really important just to recognize that you didn't do this in any sort of a selfish way, even though it can feel really selfish to invest in ourselves like this, you guys. Like, I totally get it. I've been paying for a coach for the past 2.5 years. Like, I get it. And remember, I'm a health and fitness professional. I tell people how to do this shit for a living. So when you think you can do it on your own, my question is, then why haven't you already? So anyways, I appreciate you. I'm so excited that you were able to join me for this tonight. If anybody ever wants to reach out and chat with myself or Katie, I bet she would answer a couple questions for you if you needed to.
Really?
And for those of you who are in our private community and maybe you don't know Katie very well, in the chat threads that we have in our group, here's Katie, right? She likes to lurk, which is totally cool. And she supports you guys and she loves seeing what you're doing. Just know that she's silently cheering for you guys on the sidelines. So yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing Friday, Junior. And let us know what you thought about this. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Finish this recording.